Hey, Tess here from Tytoni Yoga. So we're going to go through Malasana in this video, or Yogi squat. This pose can be such an amazing pose for strengthening legs, ankles, shins, for lifting the chest, for strengthening the back. It can also be really good for digestion. Um, but this pose can be tricky, and depending on what's going on in your body at that moment, maybe it could do with some different variations from the quote unquote normal pose. So we're going to go through these different variations. It's also a really good pose for pregnancy, but depending on what stage you are, maybe depending on how you're feeling in your pregnancy, you may want to change things up a little bit. So let's get started. All right, so lots of times we come into Malasana from standing, so that's how we're going to start this, and then we're going to go through different variations to show you that these variations are pretty much the same as the quote unquote normal pose, but they help you depending on what your body is doing in that moment and how you're feeling in that moment. Just because your body can do it doesn't mean you have to do it that way. So let's get started. So let's see. Feet are going to be open. They're open a little bit more than hip distance apart. Our heels are going to be in and our toes are going to point out. So we want our knees to track the same way as our toes, which is why our toes are pointed out. This helps protect our knees. So as usually, not always, but often, we'll bring our arms up above the head. Palms are going to come together and we're going to bend our knees so that they point out the same way as the toes once again. And we're going to come down little by little. If you notice that your heels are maybe too close together, maybe open them up a little bit to give yourself a little bit more space to come down. So hands come together, exhale, coming down. So as we're coming down, we're using our glutes and our hamstrings and our legs and our back to keep the knees out. We're not pointing them in. We're wanting to feel all four corners of the feet, not just the inside of the foot. So inhale, exhale, coming down all the way down. So we don't want our knees rolling in here. We want our knees out, elbows in, palms together. If you notice, my heels are on the ground. However, a lot of people, this is not possible for, maybe because their tendons are too tight, their calves are too tight in the foot, whatever the reason, this is just not reachable at the moment. So we have a few different variations here that we can play with that. We can put a block underneath it so we can come all the way down. We could put two blocks. We could put a pillow. We could put, if you don't have a block at home, that's fine. Put a pillow, put some books, lift the ground up a little bit to support you. Okay. The other, we could roll our mat, or if we have a blanket handy, we can roll the blanket a little bit. If you're noticing your heels are like this, right? I'm going to actually come to the side here so you can see maybe a little bit better. We're going to roll this blanket. We're going to put them under the heels. Once again, heels are pointed in, toes pointed out, knees pointed the same way. So we're still using our legs. We're still activating here. We just have a little extra cushion, a little extra support there so we can keep our chest lifted and we're not rounding in the spine. All right. Elbows help push the knees out, but we're really wanting to still activate in the legs to make sure that they're doing the work as well. And our thumbs are going to come to the chest here, or towards the chest. We can also open up so we can reach one hand out, the other arm up, getting a little twist here. Coming back to center and doing it the other way. Right, so there's lots of different variations that you can do using blocks, using blankets, especially if you're noticing that if you are pregnant or you've got a little bit more extra weight, using these extra blocks to help you support you, do it because it'll feel so much better. And even if you don't need it, but you just want a little extra love and kindness for yourself, do it as well. Another variation is to actually come all the way onto your back and do this. So let's do that. Let's come onto our back. So we're going to come onto the side here, walk our hands out. I highly recommend that, especially if you do have back problems, that you walk down onto your side first, not just flopping onto your back. And when you come onto your side, you bring your feet onto the ground, lift hips up, and shift that way so that your hips aren't skewing and there's no jolting to the spine. All right, let's just take a moment here, let the back readjust. All right, and then we're going to bring our knees into the chest. We're going to keep the knees out wide, just like we were doing with our pose standing. So my knees are open out wide. They're more or less the same distance as my shoulders here. And if you want, you can bring your hands onto the knees, gently pull them into the chest. And the huge important part of this is we're going to flex the toes towards the knees as we're doing this. So we're imagining that we're pressing those feet into the ground. We're pressing the legs into the, like we're pushing into the ground. And we're using our hands to kind of create that counter tension to pull the knees into the chest. So create that, that counter tension, counter pressure. All right, so we can stay here. Or if you want to, you can bring your hands together and do the same thing as we did before. Push the elbows into the knees, bring the hands out. Knees are still pointing the way of the toes. We're still creating that pressure there. Right, and I don't know about you, but I can definitely feel my body turning on in this pose. So, there's lots of different variations that we can do. It doesn't have to look one way or another. I'm just coming on now. And we can do this in a chair too, okay? So I'm gonna grab a stool. So coming onto the edge of your chair so that your feet are flat on the ground. And you're going to bring one knee up, keeping that knee out, flexing the toes, just like we were doing on our back, right? And there you go. That is half a squat, but you're supported. You're still lifting your chest. You can even bring your hand to the center of the chest, kind of imagining that you're doing that before. And then switch, right? I always do things on the other sides. And if you want to even add this as like a little extra, you could try to see if you can balance both knees up, maybe holding onto the knees on the edge of your chair, feet flexed. Okay, so there's lots of different variations that you can do. So practice, play, have fun, explore the poses, explore your body, explore your breath in these poses. See what feels good in that moment. Thank you so much for joining me and happy exploring. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you've learned a lot. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to like it, hit subscribe to my channel, and a little bell so that you get called when I upload, post, whatever you call it, new videos. I would also love for you to come join me in my online studio. This studio is filled with videos like this. There's a whole series of yoga foundations going through different variations of poses. Some of those videos are on here on YouTube, but most of them are over on the Tytoni Yoga studio. I'd love for you to be there. We also have loads of full classes, short sequences, and you have live classes with me as well and one-on-one coaching. So depending on what you're at, what you're looking for, hopefully I can help you. And if I can't help you, maybe I can refer you on to someone else that can. So if you have any questions, post it in the comments or send me a message through Instagram, Facebook, or through my website. Thank you again for joining me, and hopefully see you soon.